Ideology can be a dangerous thing, especially in the hands of the young and misinformed.
Welcome to Faeryville, the College of the Stars, a place where future leaders are born. It's not about power. It's about fear. Fear of losing control.
Stop. You're ruining my documentary.
How am I ruining your documentary, Miss Chloe?
Can't you just be normal?
You want to be normal?
Rebels and misfits do not belong in Faeryville.
Say it's time we do something about it. We either take over or be taken over.
Doesn't anything worry you? Is there anything that you're afraid of?
Why? Why are you so afraid to take a side?
Hi everybody, thanks for coming. My name is Tzang, if you guys are just here. I'm the director of the film. I'd like to take a moment to introduce the moderator. Her name is Esther, she's a very good friend of mine. Esther is a published author, a psychotherapist who has worked with families and children for the last maybe 30 years, around there. Esther is an early advocate for bullying in Singapore, way before bullying was a national conversation. I thought it was very interesting to hear her perspective and how she would moderate a session like this. And she's also the founder of the Coalition Against Bullying for Children and Youth. So, Esther, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. And congratulations for finally filming it. Rolling it out again. And I really remember the first time I watched Faeryville, I was like, okay, this is it. The world you need to know. This is all about really our society today. And since very long ago, way back in 2005, 2006, and then at that time I was ready we were really against being ostracized, the misfits, and also bullying and the outcome, the consequences of being bullied and the psychological effect it has on a person, a child in particular. Yeah, but today it's not about me and this ideology I have or this advocacy. It's about this film, right? And then we've known each other for a long time, right? Okay, now, when you recently won an award.
Which one? For
Faeryville.
Yeah.
We had other awards.
Yes, I think in December, Faeryville was selected by the Bakunawa Fantastic Film Festival in the Philippines. And I think Faeryville was made in 2015, so it is many years later, but yet it's still being taken out and shown again. That was in the Philippines in December, just a few days ago. They didn't know about my Netflix deal, so they rediscovered it and they felt it was highly relevant. Just about 2 years back, just before the pandemic in 2019, it was invited into Romania. It was the closing film of the Central European Film Festival in Timișoara. I think they are celebrating 30 years after the Romanian Revolution, and they wanted a different film, something from Asia. So I did wonder, with so many films about the revolution, you're celebrating 30 years of the revolution, what is Faeryville against all these other more pointed and heavy Central European films, Russian films about revolution against Russia? And they says, no. what is interesting about Faeryville is that it captured the feelings just before the revolution. The feelings of suppressed emotions, suppressed feelings, and the feeling of uncertainty and powerlessness. So it's interesting how when this film travels to different places, there are different perspectives. And I learned a lot from each screening I have, even today as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so the award was for its
It was like a premiere. It was an Asian premiere, so not so much an award. I think earlier on there are other awards like best story, best original story. Yeah.
Best original story.
Yeah.
Which one was the best original story?
2015 Jefferson State Festival.
Jefferson
State
State Festival
in the US. Yeah.
in the US for an award for its originality.
Yeah, the story.
Yeah. So actually, I'm actually very curious about what do they mean by its originality. Aren't you curious? Like, okay, how many of you are film creative students or lecturers? Students? Wait here. Like, his students, maybe? Okay. How many of you here, I'm not sure, are you educators? Counselors? Psychologists? Right. You are students in this place?
Yes.
Yes. All right. And maybe have a show of hand. What is your major? Like, what is your production? So making films.
Yes.
So, oh wow, that's the best one. Okay. What is originality to you?
Myself.
Bingo, yourself. It's about yourself and something that is deep in you and it comes originally from you. Yeah. So next question is why do you make this film?
Sure. I made this film as I said as a tribute or love letter to misfits. But I think in a way also I wanted to make a film to talk about how misfits exist and even if they are self-declared misfits like the nobodies, they are also looking for a place to belong. The title of the film is called Faeryville. It's a place, not a person, not a name. It's about still looking for a place where we have three different types of, there are many types of misfits in this film. Some who are abandoned, layered, the feelings of abandonment, misfits who don't want to be misfits, they're cast away, left away, and they have their own pain. Some who are choosing to be outside the system, who don't have pain, but they want to step away from the world of us versus them. And some who are standing up for people who are cast away, like Belle. And I think that there are so many different characters and so many different ways of expressing that wanting to belong, yet feeling cast out and wanting the world to know that they still exist. So this is in this hid space, my space that we created. I wrote Faeryville.
Yeah, I'm very glad you did it because actually there's a lot to learn from this film. I think because when you're sitting there watching, there's always something that comes up and it's like, oh, wow, yeah, this is true, or this is so not fair, or like this is heart-wrenching, or like why. And of course the difficult topics, and there are actually stuff in this movie that is a difficult conversations, especially for people in power. Because if they're in power and they are someone like the fraternity, it's like the fraternity rules, right? That's one of the key words up there. It's like, wow, it is about them and something that you're afraid of. And like you said, people want to be in control because they're afraid that something bad will happen. So in order to control that, they hold the gun, right? But it's just the way about life. I mean, you see that sometimes people in power, they have a lot of rules and systems and all in place. Systems are good to have in place if it means to protect the weak, if it means to protect those who are in need of support and help. But if it's put in place to protect those in power, then there's something not quite right about it. And that is something that becomes a difficult conversation for people who don't want to talk about it for whatever reason. Maybe it's about themselves, but it's also maybe about some things that you can't change. I'm a psychotherapist. I work a lot with these kind of issues in my work itself. Yeah. Now, there is a little blue circle there. You see it? This is actually a round hole. It's a hole on the floor. I remember one night he called me because we were discussing about what we're going to do today. And I asked him a question, and Tzang said, no, this movie is like a hole on the floor. And it is a hole that has a host of stuff to difficult conversations in society. Yeah, either for the weak, you can talk about it, or even for the powerful, you can talk about it. Even for those who want to help, but they don't know what to say about it. So there's this hole here. Let's imagine this hole to be a real hole with stuff in there, and maybe a sewage, right? I'm gonna have, if anyone can volunteer to be helping me out, maybe 3. I'm just gonna need you to get from this side, here, starting from here, to try to get across to there. Yeah, no? So any volunteer? 1, 2, 3. Can I have some? Thank you. Woo, let's give her a round of applause. You can either jump over, fly over, like a walk over, or like sneak around it, or like, whatever you do. Think of a way. Yeah, but if you get into here, you're going to fall into a sewage hole. Yeah. There's nothing right or wrong about the way. So she walked around it. Let's give her a round of applause. Ganga, thank you very much. You can go back there. Yeah. I'm going to ask you some questions later. Second one, anyone? I mean, there are ways to come across, right? Anybody else? One more. Thank you. So, how can I address you? Jimmy, are you a student? A friend? Thank you very much, Jimmy. So, I'm going to need you to come across here, whichever way. Whichever way? Yeah. You could be jumping. Don't fall into the sewage hole though.
Okay, so just across.
Yeah, get across here.
Okay, no. I don't know what to do.
But it's up to you to walk into the sewage hole. Yeah, thank you very much. I'm not gonna ask you again. Do you want to try?
Why not, right?
Let's see how he does it. It's his hole, right?
I think I will step in a little bit, step out a little bit. I don't know, it's just me. I think I'm curious.
Yeah, you've always been like this as a child.
Why? No, I feel psychoanalyzed now.
Yeah, a little bit.
She's never done this with me before as well, so what is this?
Okay, okay. You see, that hole, when I said it's a sewage hole, and if you were to walk into it, you'd walk into the sewage hole, you would avoid it. Right? I mean, if I gave her a chance, she would have been younger, right? You could have just, if I say if you walk, you would just walk across it. If it's not a sewage hole, yeah, you will walk across it. It's just a floor anyway, right? Same for trimming, right? If it's not a sewage hole, she would just walk over it, walk across it, right? It's when we know that there's stuff there that you don't want to touch, don't want to go near, you will if there's stuff like this, you don't want to step into it. You don't want to meddle it. You want to either go around it. So when you go around it, the word to describe is to describe that behavior, that choice, that action is to avoid it. Right? Avoid it. Avoid trouble, avoid problem, avoid things that you don't like. Now we've got someone interesting here who volunteered himself. He dabbled in it a little bit, off the other side. Did you see that? You dabbled in a little bit, and you what? Son, I caught you. I caught you doing your own act, because that's what it's like when you actually wrote this film. You wrote the script, right? Every word. It's like you know for sure what it is, and you are one of those people that I do respect, that you dare to be very real, and you dare to say it as it is. And because when you were brave about it, right, for all those years you took to film this film, the amount of money and effort and time that go into it, a lot that you have invested and sacrificed as well. You and I know that. You did it regardless. You wanted to finish the show. You want to finish it because there's there's so much that you want to say. It takes a lot of courage, and I really want to applaud him for that, really. Because if you know the number of years he took to film this, and what he went through, it is something that I admire. How many years was that?
On record, I said 8. It's longer than that. I just stopped counting at 8.
More than 8 years.
Yeah.
A lot of money and time and sacrifices. It's his belief and his passion. Why is the person so invested in it? Is it for his own fame? I don't think so. Because if it's for your own fame, you make something and you build something that is more, that when you invest the time and all in it, you get something back very quickly. You turn it around very quickly. But he did the thing that he believed in. That's just so him. It's very him. I mean, knowing him, right? And it was because of Faeryville that I got to know him. Before that, I never knew him. And after that, I worked with him on some projects, and then I realized this guy just does something that he believes in and is passionate about. Yeah. And actually, in this world, if we have people who dare to believe in the goodness of human person, right, and want to do something for society, right, we won't end up like this film, where those who are in power will be in control, but they do it early. And they do things in the name of justice, in the name of, this is the way things should be done. I mean, if I would go on and critique the reason for the show, right, there's a lot that I can say. I will, and I think I will be non-stop if I try and stop me from doing that.
We did plan this before.
Yeah, right. So actually, this whole is something that we're going to talk about today. And I am open for any comments that you have, because you watched it. Probably some words pop up in your head. And this is time that you can throw it back at someone who produced it. Don't go and praise him too much. I think I praise you a lot just now.
No need it.
Yeah. It's not about him anymore as of this second onward, but it's about what do you think this show brings to the audience? Because you are people in production. What do you think it brings to the audience? Or to yourself? Even you can come up with one word.
I'm genuinely curious as well. I think with each screening that I have, I learn something from the audience and what the audience make of it. So, yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Miss. Sorry, miss.
I wouldn't say a word, but I would say that there's a particular scene in the film where the antagonist, protagonist, or main bully, right? Then there was a scene where the antagonist, the bullies, mentioned that they hate them because they can, or somewhere around those lines.
Yeah.
there must be a reasoning, a much deeper reason behind it, but it was not explained elaborately inside the film. So, based on how I feel about this film, in a way I can empathize why the academics wants to go against, to revolutionize and
To fight back.
to fight back.
To fight back, right?
But I simply do not understand why they use the sequel because
Yeah. As a psychotherapist, I would like to explain this from the psychological point of view, like how the brain works. Alright? When a child grows up knowing that everything you want, you can have it, then they will always think that they are entitled. They can, because they are entitled. If you remember one part of the show, they say they are the Calvary, the Calvary fraternity. And because you're the Calvary fraternity, you are the privileged. And the privileged can. I hope this summarizes a little bit about the answer you're looking for as well. The meaning to say they are entitled because they're the Calvary fraternity. But how does it come about that people can think that way? There are a few thoughts that I have. I'll make it very simple, meaning to say, well, they feel entitled because they are being groomed. They grow up knowing they are entitled because of their status. I wish that we still snow tomorrow. And they're the most powerful, richest person on earth. They will get a team of people to make snow in a black box like this, or like a theater, to show the one they want to give that privilege to, snow. Like your wish is my command. Because they can make wishes come true. But only when the hierarchy is up there. So hierarchy and status, you go back into the classroom or the school, there are different hierarchy and status. You know why? They have the star student, they have those who are the prefect and counselors. There's nothing wrong with that. But that is a status already. That is in itself a status and hierarchy. And it gives power, it gives them some authority, and it gives them, therefore, the entitlement, the privileged ones. Yeah. And what is missing then? So what is the opposite of, like, okay, how can you regulate this, balance this? The final work I wrote on these little papers that I have here is, let me just show you really quick. Very small, but I wrote here injustice. The word I have today for this film today is injustice. There is a lot of injustice if you feel, if you can see it. And each and every injustice would require an answer. And that will be equality, equity, fairness, a balance. If the scale is balanced, you regulated it. But how can we have equity in society? That takes the effort of everyone in the classroom. That takes the effort of teachers in the classroom to always have equity. Don't call on the same student to put up your hand. Don't ask for the same volunteer all the time. Let's go back to preschool. If you notice in the preschool classroom, I'm not sure if you have little siblings or nephews and nieces. All of you single here? All of you single here? Yes? Okay, anyone with children? Why look at her? That's not equity, right? Sorry, this is called benign bullying, meaning to say I'm just teasing her but not targeting her. There's this malign bullying that is cancerous, is vicious, it victimizes. And of course, I nearly victimized him just now, but it's benign. Yeah, not at all. Yeah. As long as it doesn't feel targeted. But Paul and the rest and Leia and everyone, they all felt targeted. That's because they're being victimized. Yeah. So where was I talking about? Oh yeah. Before I went that direction. Okay, equity, right? And okay, preschool, right? Children, right? Preschool. So have you ever seen preschool teachers telling a story, and sometimes they have another child on the lap? There's a little preschooler on the lap. Yeah, or they're teaching and they have a little preschool student on the lap. Now, every little 3-4-year-old sitting there will know she's teacher's favorite. Why can't I be on the lap? Why does the teacher pick that child? It's the cutest. Oh, my favorite. Right? So what has the teacher done? The teacher has started to show diversity. He just started to show inequality. There's no equity in the room, no fairness. Why is it always that child on the left? So what amongst the 3-4-year-old preschoolers, they will start thinking, right, if I want to be popular with this teacher, I need to be her friend.
Yep.
And then you have kindergartners. Do you have kindergarten children or like your nephews or nieces and say, I hate school, I don't want to go to school because I've got no friends. Or so and so say, I don't friend you. When they're young, they say, I don't friend you. This is where I'm going to. When they're young, they say, I don't friend you. Then when you go to primary school, they say, okay, you cannot be so and so friend, otherwise we won't friend you. Right? When they go to secondary school, they're like, okay, you belong here. Are you friends with her? Then, okay, we will have our own friends here. That means if you're friends with her, you're not in our clique. Right? And then, at the canteen in school, there'll be a table for those who are the nobodies. The loners, the outcasts. And then they go to, if someone who's new to the school is not aware what's going on, sits on the table for the popular girls, the queen bee, and they sit there and they have the salad and read a book, and the queen bee walks there and it's like, why are you here? You don't belong here. You don't belong here is the secondary school language for the kindergarteners. I don't friend you, you're not my friend. You see how the vocab has improved? Because of their status and hierarchy, and they're the privileged ones. They're the entitled one. That table belongs to them.
Yeah, interesting. Just to add, I think there's a reason also why I set it in a school, right? I think in a way, if you take a look at school, and it's also a bit interesting that I'm an educator saying it, but I mean this before I was an educator. The school environment is like a microcosm of the world.
Yes.
What we are in schools and how we behave in schools are also like a reflection of how the school environment is like a space in which it reflects how it is like in the world. Some people have asked me why I chose to make a dystopian film. Singapore films make Singapore films about Singapore. Why must be dystopian? Why must be fantastical? I think there is power in fiction. There's power in something that is fantastical, imaginary. It gives us some kind of a distance. And maybe because there is a little bit of distance, this is fictional. I'm allowed to be more real. I can be more real without things being too close to home, too frightening. If I put this in a... So I'm using school to talk about society. I'm using school to talk about life, but I'm not using this school as like a Singapore school. It is set in Faeryville. It's set in the minds of teenagers who grew up in pop culture. Yeah.
Good pick. And it answers the questions.
Yeah, in a way.
Yeah, that's it, thumbs up. Any questions or thought? Yeah, in how much
Just to respond to that, I think it was one of my points I was just saying. I really understand why the educational institution seems so responsible for behavioral correction. Because when I was young, I thought schools were supposed to give you knowledge, new skills, but there was a very strong smart rules. It was almost a rehabilitation. So it felt like that.
Understand.
So that's his first thing, I guess. Like, good case. I never enrolled that. But the second part was it felt like there was not enough. Except that the majority was
Oh, cult.
A cult. But the word appeared
Yes.
felt like a cult. And I thought the nobodies were actually more. I mean, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't understand. These guys are just having fun. What's wrong with that?
Yeah.
Everybody does it.
Yeah, correct.
It's normal, but the guys are weird and doing all this weird stuff and thinking that's cool. So I think that was an interesting flip side.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that it's also, I guess, the last thing I can remind us. I don't know whether it's the reality today, there's no time I didn't pay attention to it, but why are they so dismissive?
Why?
Towards teenagers.
So dismissive.
Yeah, why? It's like, oh, teenagers, always like that.
You mean the nobodies are dismissive?
No, I mean there are certain like people who would comment things say, oh yeah, teenagers, they're always like that. And it was very, I just commented like very random people do that.
Oh, you mean the towards the end of the scene, the
Yeah.
professor says teenagers will always want to rebel, whether in the 60s, the 70s.
Something like that, but in the beginning you got a sense of like, oh, she look at her, she's actually and stuff like that. So there was always a bit of a, I don't know, it felt like it was an age that we decided that when you're at a certain age,
Right.
we expect you to behave this way. Whereas the adults, if I do well, that's okay. Because I'm uncomfortable. I don't know, so it was
No, I love it. I love this perspective. I can share a little bit. I think your question is more about why are characters in this film so dismissive of other characters who are different, is it? Or why are these characters so rebellious, is it? Just
well, I
really
think
a question.
it's a sense of resilience. I mean, no, it's not a really interesting why.
Yeah.
It's an interesting perspective because I always thought that people would be more tolerant towards, because the guy said diversity, right? And I'm like, oh. I mean,
Yeah.
he said,
Take a
so
look
why
at
is
how
he
he used the
tolerant?
word diversity.
Like,
He's using the tragedy
yeah.
as an excuse to shut down diversity.
Yeah.
And I think this film is a critique on both authority establishment as well as a critique on rebels. And I think that's the reason why this film is so hard to like. When it was released in 2015, there was no conversation. The conversation of privilege wasn't a big thing. When it was 2015, there were shootings in the US. There were school shootings. The school shootings happened in 2009, 2010. They made it very difficult for me to make this film. And when a film like this is released, or at least is being written and being made, there was a lot of concern because people don't understand where I'm coming from. There is a danger of people perceiving that I'm giving a lot of sympathy and empathy to self-radicalized teenagers, right? But it took a while for people to understand that I am giving a voice to the powerless and the voiceless, and maybe I need to be. And this film, if you look at the script and the story, it is very critical of establishment society, like a dystopian film usually is. But at the same time, instead of loving my characters, my misfits, I'm also really harsh on them, of the decisions that they made. Decisions that they made because they want to fit in. He wants to be with his friends. CK wants to be with his friends. In order to impress his friends, he blows up the principal's office. And the jokes that they talk about it before. There are characters who look like they are standing up for the misfits, but later they themselves get tired. And how they turn on each other. And I also say this, there are a lot of people with a lot of questions when they watch this film all the time. And there was the most recent one that asked me why did Bell attack Leia? It's a question that I didn't want to fully explain because I think it is in the film and it should be interpreted. But I think just to give, for the fact of not trying to give a non-answer to a question already, I would say that sophisticated authoritarian systems do not need to punish or take down people. And sometimes the sophisticated one will do it with their hands clean and will let them take down each other. And that's chilling. That's scary.
It's scary.
Yeah, that's very scary. But it is not. It's not just something that a writer writes. It is something that you see happening. And I wrote this in 2007, 2008. I wrote it, and there are many revisions of it. And so often I look at the news in 2010, 2012, the Occupy movement, Anonymous, the hacking of government websites, agency. That made it so difficult for me to release the film in 2015 because it's on a webcam. He's talking about, he has hair that looks like Poe. And he talks with that kind of confidence or smirkness, which is very Poe-like as well. But yeah, there's a very important point that marries both your point and your point actually. It's the idea of ostracizing, right? When society, dominant group, has already decided who is the other, who is not us. Which also means who is not on the left, who is not on the chosen, the one, the kids with the stars. Which also means that everybody else can target the other person. I don't need to target it anymore. I already othered you and made it safe for, if you all want to fit into the bigger group, you can take on this person. And you can see that with Belle, she has lots of friends before. She has friends, she's popular, she's dynamic, she's powerful, too powerful, too intelligent for her own good. And after she is out of the limelight, she's free game. Anybody can take on her and it's safe. Even pin her on something that she did not do. She has no voice, just behind closed doors, and just say that she admits it. It's painful. But I think it does happen.
Does anybody think that similar situations can happen in society? That means a person didn't do something, but the person can be scapegoated, takes the blame. It can be anything, a group project in a group, in a school. You're nodding your head there. You're right, T-shirt, yeah?
It should be quite common, right? I mean, because we always want to blame someone on something to make sense about everything.
Yeah.
Or there's a reason for everything, right? I mean, that's the popular thinking. So we tend to blame everything on someone so that, life will go on.
Yeah. Anyone with any other views? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So anyways, I mean, writing on to what everyone has shared so far, I think it's very interesting how Faeryville does talk a lot about real issues, and I mean it's a full circle for me because I watched this almost 10 years ago, 9 years ago actually. I was in I think 2014, early 2014.
He was in my class and I let him watch the earlier cuts, no color grading, no music, nothing. So I only let them watch a few
You're
clips.
the privileged one.
We were actually. We were all in class and it's like, oh, you're not teaching us today, you're watching the whole film. Then I was like, oh wow. And it's really a cool circle because watching it again, it really speaks of, what they mentioned, it might be hyper-realistic, it might be fantastical, but it talks about real issues. And like what you said, because you're setting it in such a not a real setting, not a real world setting, it addresses very real issues comfortably. Ironically, it's becomes very comfortable to talk about these kind of difficult things. And then it's also watching it again. I mean, you see this in our society that is the favorite ones, and then there's also the nobodies. But the nobodies are not why do people pick on the nobodies, right? Even though they're just really doing their daily lives. They're not the weird ones, they're really not the weird ones, they're just doing themselves,
Correct.
just having fun. But why are they
Corny jokes.
but why are they doing it on, But then again, this is
It's life.
This is how it is.
This is
Yeah,
life.
but I mean, this still kind of tells you that, you know, it's really okay to be
Weird.
yeah, you don't have to be the one that's like favored by everyone. I really like the film the last time, reflect so that you know you have a soul. Yeah, it speaks a lot about why I really want to do today.
Why we still find one.
Yeah, why I chose to be in the film industry. Yeah, because I mean, like 10 years ago, it's like wow. When I watched this, I was like, wow, this is what I want to do. And no, Tzang, no, we have thought about this. It's this is really a full circle for me, and I think that it's something that is very nice to watch again, and then really is still so relevant today. Yeah, in everything that we talk about. One question, I mean, of course, watching it again, now like you're a bit more sensitive to a lot of things, and then you have questions. So one question is, do you think Leo ever wanted to be part of the movie?
Wow, what do you think? What do you guys think? If you look carefully at Leo, I think he looks pretty confident. I think he's a person who is dead set on finding something about himself and his life. Like, where is he from? And what does he do? And the principal did ask him, there are two paths that you may choose. One that prepares you for greatness and all that the world has to offer. The other is the road of the misguided, a path filled with resistance and romantic distractions. And then after that, he chose to hang out with some losers and talk about cookies with them. And it was convenience, maybe. And do we sometimes, maybe because we do not want to hang out with this group, so we just sit with the other group. And he had a choice to be with the Calvary. He had a handshake, but maybe it's out of hate, out of anger, or something that he wants to stand against. Yeah. Just want to add something later, which is really, really fun. You'll notice that FLIXX is called FLIXX, right? Fake. And layer. And FLIXX is about being the lie. Just the world is shit, so I'm just going to pretend that it's not, and we'll all just be the nobodies and wankers, lamers, losers. But layer is the complete opposite. Layer is real spelled backwards, so we have both the fake and the real one. I thought that was quite fun.
That's where your originality comes from. You being all the code words.
Yeah.
You know about Leia, the question about why did he do what he did, right? Yeah, did he choose to be part of the nobodies and all that? I don't think he made that choice because he wants to. He wanted to in the beginning. He was just he saw the injustice. He never wanted to be in any part. If you notice his first day in school, he walked in, he didn't give the ball to the powerful, he straight knew those were the powerful guys. And then the hi, I'm Paul. He didn't even say hi, he just walked right through. He stood there for a good almost 1 minute count in the film row, almost 1 minute. Enough to say he stood there and thought and he was thinking. And it was like, no, you know what, I don't care, I'm just gonna walk straight. Leo was being himself all the time. He didn't want to be a part of any of the groups. But in the end, he chose to stand up for injustice. He chose to he chose to own up for something he didn't do. He chose to be the one to pick up the gun and try and rescue and save. He sacrificed himself.
In a way.
Yeah, the hero of the show.
I don't know if it's a hero. Look carefully at it. It's very much, it's still about his own demons. From the beginning to the end, it's still about his own demons.
He had his own score to fight.
Yeah, his own pain. He's just trying to make sense of his pain. He wants answers from this guy who seems so faultless, who has the power to fault others. And he wants to question why do you leave me? It's not so we have our justice warrior, which is Belle, right? the activist, but also the activist, the person who stands up for justice for others, not herself, who sees conspiracy in the system. But I think the thing that I took it further from a rebel narrative is that she's tired. She doesn't believe in everything that she fought for anymore. And that is so real. Right? I think you have been an activist for a long time as well. You also understand the fatigue that comes with the job of helping, of saving, and the feeling of being misunderstood, and because of the cause that you have chosen, how you are open target, and because you have chosen to fight for a cause that is not part of a preferred narrative. You've chosen to stand up for a certain voiceless group of people that I already don't want to give a voice to. And I think you see that in life. It's we don't identify or don't even have words for it in 2014, 2015. But I think in the last few years, with Trump, post-Trump, all that, you could see the whole us versus that narrative. You could see the whole stories about social division. Even with the refugee crisis, people coming in and how we are othering the group of people, and how there are also people who are fighting for them, and after that they get tired. It's a reflection. It's like a social mirror to reality and to things that we don't have words for. And maybe that's why I love cinema. That's why I love film. That's why I love fiction. Because before I had my words for it, I could tell it with story. I could tell it with images. I don't even have these words that I sometimes say now, but I knew that there was a feeling and an emotion that I could capture through the language of story and cinema.
I can resonate with what you said, and actually he just got me thinking. When I first started there were just 4 of us young ladies, young men.
CAPC, right?
CAPC, Coalition Against Bullying for Children and Youth. Before we really started that organization, we first went around thinking, we look for people who are in the field of mental health, or people who are powerful because they got a big organization for children and youth. So we spoke to some of these people. And in particular, one powerful guy who's a psychiatrist in a big organization for mental health. We finally got an appointment to see him, and then we sat in front of him, telling him our idea of why we want to set up a non-profit organization that is speaking up for children who are being bullied or youth who are being bullied, and how we want to prevent suicide as a result of being bullied. And then he said to us, "Why are you wasting all your time doing this?" He's a very, very popular, in the community, a great guy. We were like 4 girls, like 4 young ladies, like, what? But we kept quiet because we still respected him, because he's all up there, all powerful. And then he said, because we want to prevent suicide. Because it's known that when a person is victimized, pushed to the edge, if you can't fight back, you flight. If you can't run away, they end their own life. And that's why there's been suicide as a result of being targeted and bullied. And they're very alone. Even if they're surrounded by friends or like classmates or people who they sit at the table hanging around, but they're all talking about their own situation, own stories and drama, everything, but they're at the same dining table or canteen, but they're still very alone, very quiet in here. They don't really have a friend or someone that they can talk about, or they're very alone. And they're actually, even in their own group of friends, they can be ostracized too, excluded. They may want to go for a movie, but they'll never inform her or him. Because you don't need to call him. It's being excluded. It's benign, not purposely, like to hurt, but it hurts. So actually, suicide as a result of being bullied is very real. So, and depression, developing general anxiety disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, and snapping and wanting to take a gun to kill self or go in and shoot. It's all very real. So then what he said to us was like, you know what, if any one of them is suicidal, they will come to me at a hospital. We will handle them. But sometimes, if they do go to the hospital, you can save them, maybe a little bit, but some don't. So there's been suicide as a result of being bullied, but it's not being recorded. Meaning to say it's not on the newspaper. It goes unwritten.
It's a difficult conversation.
It is a difficult conversation. So we walked away thinking, oh, maybe we should give up. We're very poor people. How can we? So in the end, you know what I said? No, order more. We need to do something about it.
That's why I really respect the work.
Therefore, there's Kepsi.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone from MOE here? It's a black box, right? Doors closed, I think. They say that there's no bullying in school. I did a research for 4,000 students, and I proved it. Because I said, in Singapore, the way about it is to show them with numbers. Like, authorities and fraternities, you get to show them the numbers, evidence and all that. So we did that. 4,000 collection of survey research, we showed that 1 in 8 is bullied at least once in school. 1 in 12 bullied at least on a weekly basis once, at least once. 1 in 4 cyberbullied at least once. That was all the way back in 2006. Then CNA interviewed me and whatever, my team, and okay. Then they went to MOE, and MOE said 0.03 person, only 0.03% is bullied out of 100 data they collected. There are 100 students they surveyed. And it took them quite a while to give the, then was Paul Fox, the journalist. So it was on Channel News Asia, 0.03 out of 100 students is bullied, reported ever being bullied. How does that form one person? The 3/4 person?
It's about choosing the narrative, right?
Right.
The person who has said it's not bullying is the person.
Wow.
Because I've never experienced it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The bully never experienced bullying.
It's not racism. Because you're not like this.
Yeah.
I know, that's how I thought.
Yeah, you have every right to that feeling and thought too.
To me, I can't believe it's basic statistics on normal population.
Yes.
There will always be a percentage. And after that, it becomes percentage.
Yes.
It's increasing. So I'm a little appalled.
I was very appalled. The journalist was very appalled, but anyway, she went ahead and reported it on CNA. Now, how did CAPC, Coalition Against Bullying for Children and Youth, made it today? Then over the number of years, we were able to now have a law against bullying in Singapore. We had the law rolled out in 2013. And finally, someone asked me, Esther, you just tell me what we need and I'll do it. Tell me who you want to invite to this conference because you want to have a law against bullying. A minister for law called me into the office one day. And we had that rolled up. And it's under the POHA, Protection of Harassment. A lot of harassment there, right? Act. And now you can actually say I'm being bullied. And it has not stopped, and I'm being hurt, and all of that. I can go on and on about bullying, but I think I will stop somewhere here that we do have a law against bullying. If you put that law in the world map, which country has a law against bullying? Singapore is already on that map. Australia has that too. Yeah, but who were the people who helped us? Singapore. Not Singapore government, not Singapore authorities. It was people, it was a group of people, Australians in Australia, who actually, when I went there with my friends, and then we said we were attending a anti-bullying conference, you know what they gave me? A whole library of CDs and books on anti-bullying advocacies. And they actually extended their hand. So we had I was in the round table of universities there against bullying.
It comes back to the power of the independent spirit, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it is wrong to always work with only the status quo, because the status quo has its own place, right? It's supposed to keep things in order, but it is the outliers, the people who think differently, the people who bravely see something before the world sees it first. And they do it, for me, I do it through art, through films. My heroes do it through music. She do it through activism, through advocacy, through talking to systems. Right? We all have different ways of doing all little things, but not to forget that this indie spirit, this nobody spirit, this outcast spirit, the outliers, the ones who see before the world does. That makes sense. That kind of like has a place to contribute for the betterment of society. Even though at the moment right now, society don't understand what you guys are doing here. So I really respect what Esther is doing. Maybe for me to round it up before to bring it back to bullying, I'd like to share with you a little bit of a reflection that I wrote just yesterday before this screening. I was thinking, how can I mean, Faeryville is so confrontational, for lack of a better word. It's so challenging, so confrontational. But out of respect for holding space, festival of wellness, what new conversation can we have about bullying? And I really see that our conversation today is already an elevated conversation. It's so different from bullying is bad, say no to bullying. And I wanted to add a little bit more. If you don't mind, I'll just read this passage. Alright? Spectacles.
It tells you he's aging.
I'm still a teenager. I wrote it here, right? The thing about the bullying conversation is that as a campaign, sometimes we are forced to oversimplify the conversation. Too often, the bullied who cry bullying, the bullied who cry bully, are sometimes themselves guilty of bullying. I don't know if you noticed that. How can we have a conversation about bullying that can inspire change, real change, beyond just finger pointing? And I think that's so far, that's the kind of conversation that we are comfortable with when we talk about bullying. I'm bullied, he bullied me, look, he bullied me, what are you going to do about it? Look at me, hashtag say no to bullying, and then what happens? I'm getting a lot of people to gang up after I point the finger and let's all attack him together. This seems to be the only way you know how to talk about bullying. Oh look, somebody is targeting this little girl online. Hashtag say no to bullying, hashtag anti-bullying. Look at her, let's all stand up for her. Suddenly everybody gangs up and we just destroy that person. Online, offline, cancel culture, woke culture. It's easy to identify bullying when one is a victim, but the truth about bullying is that we don't realize it, we don't notice it, sometimes we tribalize it when we ourselves are contributing to the bullying of others. Because anti-bullying can sometimes lead to mob behavior. Mob, M-O-B, mob behavior. The real conversation is not who is the bully or how we should punish the bully, but rather, how have we been guilty of bullying, oppressive behavior ourselves? Do we have certain conformist behaviors that sometimes lead us to join the bullying? As a teacher, I see that. Sometimes in order not to be bullied, I join in. Have we ever used our power, our privilege, our position to put others down? Or have we tried to put others down because of our own insecurities? And you see that in the film as well. So maybe the conversation about bullying is not about othering anymore. We need to end that cycle of hate, cycle of pain. When I talked to Esther some time back, when we had this conversation on bullying, I did say it to the group, right, the coalition. It's not about going against the bully or targeting the bully, it's about going against bullying. If not, this cycle continues. So I think in the spirit of holding space, we can be more reflective. We can look at the bully in us the bully that we can be, that the monster is sometimes very close to home. And maybe you change that rather than to go out witch hunting, which is what this film is about as well. And maybe with that we can be kinder to each other. And that there is a space even for the losers, the misfits, the outlaws, the idiots. And a better place for all of us. Hopefully that rounds it up very soon.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks. I agree with you then, and that is why we've always taken this approach. If a school calls up and there's bullying, a parent calls up, we usually take one very helpful approach, and that is called a shared concern. You're concerned about the bullying situation, but we're also concerned about the victim's family, but also the bully. Why is the bully bullying? And when everyone sits together in a round circle and talk about the bullying situation, when you have a shared concern, it usually brings everyone to one meeting point and can change the behavior. This approach has been used in Australia, Canada, and some countries, and we're trying to bring that back to Singapore as well. It's quite tough. We're going to try. Yeah.
The outliners again. You see, here's the outliners again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Tzang.
Alright, so I want to say thank you to everybody for coming and giving a chance to this strange little film, Faeryville coming screening in this festival. That you take the courage to just come by and check this out. I appreciate your time. I hope that you left with something in spite of this indie setup. And thank you very much. I thank you. Cheers. Please go on to the slide with the QR code if you feel free, if you have any something to reflect, please put it in there. Thank you so much.
Doesn't anything worry you? Is there anything that you're afraid of?
Why? Why are you so afraid to take a side?